Hey, it's the big episode 30, and we're celebrating bands which are which were big in the past and now are suddenly realizing that they still need to produce music and are coming back again.
Comeback bands.
Comeback bands. Yeah, comeback bands. Right? I mean there's been a lot of them over the last like 3 to 4 years, right?
Yeah, a revival of sorts, and especially like for me with thrash, because you had the whole old school thrash bands, like bands like Bonded by Blood and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That play that old school sound, but are like probably were not even born when the thrash.
Yeah, but that's a completely different debate altogether. I mean, there's a revival of the old sound, but beyond that, like,
and that's why it's great to have bands who actually were there back
you
then.
think they got agitated by like listening to all this new shit and go like, "Hey, what the fuck, man? We were the ones who created it. We need to come back and do better,
but show them
or
show
establish our credence and our whatever, our like stamp the mark, go on, piss on the tire once again to establish my territory."
I don't know. It'll be. I would love to know what the bands are thinking when they came back. But at least the band we're talking to this episode had a very different approach to it, right?
Of course, yeah. This episode we're talking about Sacred Reich. Now, Sacred Reich is a band that got clubbed into the entire American thrash scene.
Yeah.
They were like the B league of the big four. Yeah,
I would say.
I mean, you could consider them in the big eight.
Yeah, and
the Big Ten.
And you think about it, they weren't actually physically located in where the Bay Area thrash was. So obviously, you get a lot less. And they started out slightly later, I'm sure.
Yeah, around 1980, no, around 1985 itself. So which is approximately the same time as all the other big four bands and the lesser of the whatever, the big six or the big eight, however you want to call like the other bands associated with that scene. But yeah, 23 years later, Sacred Reich have a new album out. It's called Awakening, and it's a very short listen.
Yeah, and it's an awakening of sorts if you think about it.
Oh, it definitely is. It definitely is. The band itself coming back with a brand new guitarist. He's so young. He's younger than any. Like he's like what, 22?
22 or 23.
Yeah, 22 or 23. That's like way young. So yeah. But beyond that, the drummer for Machine Head, who used to be part of the band, is also back. So the core group as such that created most of the big hits that Sacred Reich is known for, that's back.
And it's great to hear them, because like if you think about it and you listen to them, it doesn't really sound like, they've not gone for that modern production or anything like that you'd associate with most of the current acts, right? Yeah, I mean, production aside, even the album was very meat and potatoes okay for me, but that's my initial reaction to it. Well, I don't know, we got this fabulous opportunity to talk to Phil Rind, who's the founder as well as the frontman as well as the bassist of the band. So what do you say, let's chat with him and try and figure out why Sacred Reich came back, or not came back, like why Sacred Reich needed to produce a new record and release a new album 23 years after their previous one. Yeah, heal. So here's our chat with Phil Rind from Sacred Reich.
Hey Phil, welcome to Horns Up. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Congratulations on Awakening. I have to say I found it a rather curious name. Of course, there's the song, but I'd like to interpret it as the awakening of the band in a way, given it's the first album in such a long period of time, the new guitar player, the return of a long-time drummer. There's a lot that's going on, and it all seems to be a really positive change. Would you agree?
Most definitely. All the things that you have mentioned are completely true and relate to the title, Awakening. The very simple explanation is it's our return, the reawakening of the band after 23 years. But it also talks about kind of where we've been at the last 20 plus years, personally, and the things that we've been through to get to this point. and what the influences had on the record. And it also talks about the overall theme lyrically of the record, the kind of thing that we all kind of need to do. That's our own like kind of personal awakening, and it's the awakening in our heart, to kind of figure out where we're going to live from through, fear or anger, or love and compassion. So that's, it's on kind of 3 different levels.
I was going through some old interviews in yours, and one from 2008, soon after your comeback, there was a question saying, is there a chance of a new album? And if I may quote you, you said, no, it's the furthest thing from my mind. But here we are 11 years later, and boom, there's a new album. So clearly there's a whole change in your thought. What brought about that change?
I'm not sure what the impetus was, but somehow the songs came back. When we were active and recording and doing all that stuff, like the songs would just pop into our heads. And that kind of went away for quite a long time. So when everyone asked if you're going to do a record, the answer was always no, because we didn't have any songs. So for some reason, the songs came back and started popping into our heads. And that was the obvious sign that it was time to go make a record. So we're very fortunate.
What do you think changed? You say the song started to come back. Is it just the fact that you guys were playing shows together again, jamming together again, new musical ideas coming in, or was it just a product of the times?
Yeah, I think it was just the right time, I guess. I don't really know. There hasn't been a huge change because, when we started writing the first song, which was Divide and Conquer, it was still, the 4 original members in the band. So it wasn't really like a lineup change or anything like that. But I don't know what it is. And I try not to think about it too much because it doesn't really matter. All that really matters is here we are now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. All right, you mentioned the lyrics on the album, and I'd like to get into that a little bit. Now, Sacred Reich are known for socially conscious and politically aware lyrics, and of course, Awakening is another example of that statement. Does the album have any common message of sorts that you or the band would like to leave the listener with? And could you delve on those messages and why those messages are necessary to be heard?
Well, I think the main theme of the record is we're all in this together, and we need to do our best together to make things better. And it's up to us. And no one's coming to save us. There's no cavalry coming. So I think overall, that's the message. We're in this together. We should just love each other and work together. And it's up to us, each and every one of us. So I think that's the overall theme.
Just to get into another aspect of the new album, which was the recording. After so many years getting back in the studio, what was it like the first time you guys got back again? Were you nervous, excited? Could you kind of set up or at least describe what it was like, the feeling while you were getting ready to record the album?
Yeah, the first night when we were going to start recording and laying down tracks, it was a little it was very exciting, a little overwhelming, not in a bad way, but just kind of emotionally, we kind of felt a little giddy. And I remember looking over at Wiley and we're both standing there ready to record. And I'm like, are we really doing this? After all this time, are we really doing this? This is so cool. And that was pretty much the whole time we recorded. That's how we were feeling. This is so great. We're so lucky. The whole recording process was so fun and easy and positive. And we were all really encouraged each other, and it was just really cool the way the whole thing worked out, and we were just commenting about it the whole time, the 4 of us in the band, and also Arthur, who produced the record, and John, who engineered it. They're like, man, we do sessions all the time, and this is a lot different than most of the sessions that we do. And I don't know, it was just really cool.
What made it different than the sessions? I mean, was it a different process this time around, or what we were used to earlier? I mean, of course, there's the technology bit of it, which comes completely changed over the last decade. But beyond that,
Well, I mean, I think for those guys, like we don't know. We haven't made a record in 23 years, but like, John's like, I do sessions every day, and he goes, it's just the vibe of the whole session was just a lot different. He said Joey came in at the last minute, and here's a 22-year-old kid coming in to make this record with this band he's loved for most of his life. We haven't made a record in 23 years, and Joey just walks in and just crushes it, just crushed his guitar tracks, and with like zero pressure, like it was nothing. And pretty much, when Dave was recording his drum parts, it was just really an open environment, and there's a lot of feedback, and he was open to trying different things. And when I was recording vocals, it was very chill, and I don't know, it was just the whole thing just had a really positive and cool vibe to it. Not that the other records haven't, but it just seemed like everything was headed in the same direction. It was really cool.
Yeah, and I'm kind of glad you brought that up, because when we were just looking at the lineup and stuff like that, you're now going to be touring soon with a guitar player who's kind of the same age that it's taken between your last album Heal and Awakening. So
Yeah.
what is it like? I mean, I'm sure he was like in awe, just like we are right now, kind of talking to you. But what is it like getting him in the band and the whole process?
Well, so I know Joey's dad, Tim, and Dave was still in Machine Head at the time, and Tim said, I play drums, I have a little studio. If you need help, working on the demos, I'd be happy to do it. And we were like, yeah, that's killer. So we went down to Tim's place and just kind of like laying down the outline of the songs just to kind of see how everything was going to go. And Tim played drums, and Joey, his son, recorded everything. He was engineering, and he's like, Joey plays guitar. So I would play scratch tracks, and then, just give the guitar to Joey real fast, and he would just play the guitar properly. Like Wiley was busy. Wiley's got 3 restaurants, and he was real busy. We were just, putting down the outline of the songs. And so Joey played guitar on them, on all the demos. And, when it didn't work out with Jason, I mean, it was the first day in the studio with Jason, and it was like, man, he's not going to be able to do it. He's not up to it. And, in that environment, like Arthur showed up the first day to produce a record. He goes, how's everything going? And we're like, it didn't work out with Jason. He's like, ha ha ha, funny. And we're like, no, really. He was like, whoa, what? And we're like, don't worry, it's going to be okay. And Joey stepped right in, and it was great. So that's how we met him. And then, after a couple, we figured he'd just make the record. He's a 20-year-old kid. He's not going to want to hang out with a bunch of old coots like us. And after, a couple days of him recording, it just made sense. It was obvious that he was our guitar player. His attitude, the way he played, the way he just fit in with everybody, the way he looked at things. I mean, he's a young kid, but he has a great head on his shoulders, and he's a mature kid in a lot of ways. And in other ways, he's just like a young kid too. But he's used to hanging out with his dad and jamming with his dad and all of his friends. So I think he's used to being around a bunch of older guys. And, we did a month tour in the US already. We just did 2 weeks in Europe, and he's just having the time of his life. He just is. He fits in great. We all get along great. It's been pretty amazing.
That I have to ask this. I can easily picture this as sort of a teacher-apprentice vibe. It's an easy story to write, Is that the way?
Yeah, but what's funny about Joey? So I remember when we announced that he was in the band. I have a lot of friends have been around for a long time. And they're like, you're gonna have to tell him this, and you're gonna have to tell him this, and man, you got to show him this, you got to show him this. And I'm like, you guys don't know Joey. I don't have to tell him anything, and I don't have to show him anything. Because what Joey doesn't talk a ton, right? Because his dad told me he's always been a bit of an observer, right? So Joey sits and he watches, but he absorbs everything. So you really don't have to tell Joey anything because he's picking it up as he goes. You know, he's a bright kid and he sees what's going on. And he knows right from wrong. It's not difficult. And he just, you know, I can see how we evolved as a band playing the shows. I mean, even just on stage, you know. So I really don't have to tell him anything. He figures it out for himself. So about this teacher apprentice stuff, I'm not really sure about any of that. I think Joey's well on his way, and what he needs to learn, he'll figure out from being around us.
All right. Okay, cool.
You brought up the European tour, and you know that's a complete different aspect, performing live. And you guys have been doing it at least for the last decade. But what was it like playing your new material on the European tour? What was the audience reaction to the tracks?
It's been really great. I mean, considering most people probably haven't even heard all the stuff, you know, maybe they heard a song or two, but we were playing at least 3 or 4 songs.
Right.
And the reaction was great. You can tell, like, they don't really know the songs and everyone's watching and listening. But the response has been great and everybody really likes it. And the response to the record has been really incredibly positive, and it's wonderful to see. And everything's just going really good right now. We're really happy.
And now you guys are also gearing up for a tour with War, Toxic Holocaust, Against the Grain, and this time it's like the North American tour. So are you guys going to be playing a similar set list, slightly more new songs now that the album is out? What are you looking forward
to? Well, the set with Guar is like 40 minutes, so it's not a very long set.
Okay.
So we'll pack in a bunch of new songs and, you know, the songs that we know people want to hear from the older records. Then we'll have a few headline sets and we'll play some more new stuff. And then we head over to Europe in November for 5 weeks for a headline tour. And we're taking Night Demon with us. They're awesome. And then, we'll be playing at least half the record, if not more. So we're looking forward to it. It's nice after all this time to have new songs to play. We've been playing the same songs for quite a long time. And then I think, like, how many times has Keith Richard played Start Me Up, you know, or Satisfaction? So I really don't have much to complain about.
No, and I still remember watching Deep Purple live and realizing, oh my God, Smoke on Water, they probably like hate the song at this point, right?
Yeah, well, they know. Look, they know that's one of the songs that made them who they are. But yeah, I guess you got to find the freshness in it every night. I mean, we've been playing. I can't compare to Deep Purple, but you know, we've been playing probably Surf Nicaragua every show we've ever played since 1988. So, you know, it's like, okay, but it's funny because I don't know what I was gonna say. I had a thought and then it went away.
All right, so
I must ask, since you talked about the tour and since you've been doing it in the last 10 years, have you noticed like newer faces, people discovering the band? Because that's one of the things about bands like you, since you talked about like you'll have been around for so many years. Has there been newer audience, newer faces you find each time you play like different cities or the same cities?
Well, there's a couple things. There's young people that are brought by their parents. There's that bit, you know, the people who are around our age who are now bringing their kids to the shows. So that's new faces. And then I remember specifically playing a show in Los Angeles maybe 5 years ago and going out front and seeing the line, and it was full of like 16 and 17-year-old kids with white high tops, denim vests, and, you know, their hats flipped up. And it was like a whole new wave of thrash kids, you know, that missed it the first time. So there's that too. So it's a nice mix of people, and it's really cool to see.
All right. Now, of course, you've been doing this since 1985. I have to ask, do you guys still enjoy touring and all the fatigue it brings with it?
Well, it's great. I mean, what's cooler than playing music every night? There's nothing that's cooler than that. I mean, we have the coolest job that ever could be. It's, it was funny the other day. I was like, how we know that being in a band is the coolest thing you could ever do? Even actors and sports stars, it's, they're like, man, if I could just be in a band. Like, yeah, that's how cool it is being in a band. So, yeah, it's great. Look, even the traveling can be a little grueling sometimes, but
definitely it can.
Some people have difficult lives. I wouldn't confuse this with a very difficult life. And the hard part is just being gone from your family. This tour with Gwar coming up is 8 weeks in the U.S. and the show in Canada, and then we go straight to get on a plane and fly to Europe for 5 weeks. So we're going to be gone like 3 months straight.
Oh,
and it's just hard, it's hard on your family. So if there's any, drawback, obviously it's just being gone, but it's just part of the deal. There's no getting around it. I mean, this is what we signed up for. So it doesn't make any sense to complain about it or feel bad about it. I mean, it's just our life, and we're really lucky to have it. We're really fortunate that we get to make another record. We're really fortunate that anyone still cares about us after all these years. So, it's all incredibly cool stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't, the question really wasn't prompted by a complaint as such. It's just that there's a popular thought that goes around saying that you don't pay musicians as such. Of course, you're paying them for their talent and stuff, but mostly you're paying them for the long periods of waiting and all the
that's funny.
And all the things that they have to go through to make sure that they come to your city and play the same set of songs again each and every night.
Right.
So the question that I wanted to ask was, how do you guys still find the energy to do this day in and day out?
Well, I guess that'd probably be a really good question after we get back from the next tour, and I'll have a much better answer. Because I looked at the dates, and it's 84 shows in 96 days in 14 countries.
Wow.
In 15 countries. So like the Gwar tour is 8 weeks, and there's 5 days off.
That's packed.
In 2 months. And then in Europe, it's a little more relaxed. It's 5 weeks with 5 days off. We get 1 day off a week. But, like the Gwar tour, like I said, we're playing 40 minutes. How hard is that? It's not hard. But, to your point where we don't get paid for playing, we get paid for waiting around. Because there's a lot of that, which is why it's really important that you all enjoy each other's company, because you're spending a lot of time together in a very small little space.
Oh, definitely.
I always say it's like being in a submarine, like you're all in the submarine together. And you just got to enjoy each other's company, and you have to respect each other. So I think we're getting along better than we ever have. Having Joey and Dave in the band has really been a very positive thing for us.
That's great to listen to.
Yeah. So let's take a quick transition into we'd like to hear a track from The Awakening. Which track would you like our listeners to hear, and why?
I think obviously I like all the songs, but I think I like Manifest Reality quite a bit. It's just a pretty heavy song, and it shows really our influences. Our two biggest influences our whole career has been Slayer and Metallica, so it really kind of shows those influences. And I think the lyrics are everything I could ever probably want to say in a song, and the chorus just saying, be the change you want to see, to manifest reality. It's up to us to manifest the world in which we want to live. So those lyrics to me are about everything I could ever want to say.
All right, so here's Manifest Reality by Sacred Reich. Filth as an interesting adjective I found online. Someone's used the term Buddhist thrash to define Sacred Reich. I understand this stems from your practice of Tibetan Buddhism.
Yes. I don't know if we're Buddhist thrash because I'm only one guy in the band, you know, and the other guys are definitely not Buddhist. You know what I mean? But I think since I write the words, like it's it manifests itself in the lyrics. So, for me, it's just about how we're looking at the world and taking responsibility and seeing things for what they are and not getting caught up in the negativity and that kind of stuff. So I think it's a positive thing.
Okay, but I have to say, to a layperson, Buddhism paints a picture of pure peace, whereas metal paints a picture that's really quite the opposite. What's the correlation like for you? I'm sure you get asked this a lot.
No, not really. It's funny, but I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think you can play very heavy music and aggressive music and still have a positive message behind it. And I think that's mostly what it is. I'm definitely not as angry as I used to be. Sometimes I read the lyrics like, to ignorance or whatever. And I was like 16, 17, living at home with my parents. I'm like, what was I so angry about? But I think it's easy to look around. Certainly, you don't have to look too far to find a lot of suffering and injustice in the world. It's not hard to find it if you want to look for it. So I think, a lot of people have that kind of attitude, and especially when you're very young and idealistic too. In Manifest Reality, there's a line that says, when I was young, I had to change the world. And that's how I felt like I had to. I didn't have a choice. I had to change the world. It was important. And it says, now I know I can only change myself. And then as I've gotten older, I realized I could barely control myself. Who am I to think that I'm going to be able to tell anybody else what they're going to do? So it's probably more important to change myself and be a better example. So I think that's the same idea, in everything that we do, that, the things that we do or the things that we say are an example, and let's do something positive and put something positive out there, but we can still have some heavy and aggressive music at the same time. And in Buddhism too, there's lots of, different, there's like Kalachara, it's like a very wrathful deity, and it's, in Hinduism as well, right? These deities represent the different manifestations of the energy. So there's very strong energies and more, compassionate energies, but they're all the things that we have in us. I mean, anger is natural or we wouldn't experience it, right? So all these things just come up from within us. So I think it's all fine.
But just to ask you one more question on that aspect, has your belief or Buddhism in any manner influenced the Sacred Reich sound or message? And has there been any rub-off, if any?
Well, I mean, obviously it's manifests itself in lyrically, like Manifest Reality is definitely, I mean, it's pretty much straight from the mouth of my teacher, all those lyrics. Death Valley is, I think, a very Buddhist song. It talks about living in the moment, and the second verse is about the bardo, what happens after you die. And the third verse is pretty much Shantideva's prayer, as long as time and space abide, for as long as we all shall live, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. That's pretty much a Shantideva's prayer. So it's definitely in there lyrically. And I think on a personal level, it's made me hopefully, I'm working towards being a better person. So it helps in our band relationships, and it helps when we're all around each other. So
now, you brought up Death Valley, and for me, that kind of track, when the first couple of listens of the album, it kind of stood out for me. And when I was discussing it with someone else, they all kind of got it right when they said it sounds a bit Black Sabbathish.
Yes, absolutely. That's what we were shooting for.
All right. And what was the kind of thing? Because like when was it something that you were consciously going for when you were in the writing process? It just kind of emerged in there?
Yeah, I mean, the riffs kind of come to you, and where they come from, we don't really know. There's all the influences already in your brain, but it reminds me of something like Sabotage, or, and I love that record so much. It was funny enough, like on Heal, is it? I don't remember. Yeah. No, it's on Independent. There's a song called Crawling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and a friend of mine said, dude, that's Hole in the Sky. And I was like, no. He's like, shut up. Come on. You didn't realize that? I'm like, not until right now. And now it's really obvious. But until this moment when you brought it up. And I said, and I was listening to that record a lot when we were writing songs for that record. So it makes perfect sense. So that something like Death Valley comes really shows, the influence that Black Sabbath has had on us. And yeah, I love the track. It's really cool and different, and it just has a really great vibe. That song is like the most cheerful song about death ever. We all know we're gonna die. No one's escaping it. We're all living in Death Valley. And the point of knowing that we're all gonna die is that we should enjoy our time right now, because nothing is guaranteed, right? Dalai Lama always says we don't know what's gonna come next day or next life. So we should enjoy the moment and be present in the moment. And so that's really the idea of the song. And I think musically it kind of feels that way, just enjoying yourself.
Okay, and we just spoke about how influences shape your sound. So let's flip that bit. And that's because Sacred Reich is such an influential band. Could you help us understand what the Sacred Reich sound is, and has it really changed from, say, 1985 to today?
Well, I don't know exactly what the Sacred Reich sound is, other than when we get together and play, that's what it sounds like. So, and definitely, from ignorance, which was and Ignorance is a lot of people's favorite record by us because it's the most out and out thrash record we ever made. And it's the only one that sounds like that. There's no other record that sounds like that we did. And there's a segment of our fans that are very disappointed by that. And I read that stuff all the time. Ignorance is the best. And they got soft after that. Well, that's cool. Like people are certainly entitled to think whatever they want. So I'm glad that they would enjoy that record. So that was very thrashy. And then when we did Surf, we added some different elements. And I really feel like when we did The American Way, we kind of became who we are. That's kind of, if people are like, what does Sacred Reich sound like? it started really with The American Way, I think. And then, added some stuff on Independent. And on Heal was kind of, Independent kind of really took 2 steps forward from American Way. And then when we got to Heal, we realized that maybe on Independent, we had abandoned where we had come from, right? Like, we want to acknowledge all the aspects of our band. We want to always add new stuff and always challenge ourselves and right where we are then. But we also want to acknowledge the people that got us to that point, the fans, and just be conscious of it without forcing it. So, like on the new record, I think we really struck a nice balance. I mean, bands always say our new record is the best record.
Yeah.
And we're no different. Our new record is the best record. That's what I really think. And I like every song on the record. And I think it has a lot of different things what Sacred Reich's about. We have some fast, heavy songs on there. We have something like Death Valley. We have, like Revolution, which is, almost like a punk rock song. And then there's Something to Believe, which is, different for us, more like just a rock song, more like a traditional metal song, But I think we really kind of found something cool on this record.
Cool. Just to start wrapping things up, I know there's certainly a lot to talk about in the current political climate. There's plenty of material on hand to be angry about, just to vent out about, just to opine about, or just to leave people with messages about. I'd like to understand from you, especially since the lyrics play such an integral part of the Sacred Reich sound. What do you think is the role that music and art can play in these times?
Well, I think for me, music is the best art form. I mean, I love painting, I love sculpture and photography and film and plays and all that stuff. But I think the thing about music is it connects with people in a different way. And it can be a time machine and the soundtrack of your life, where when you hear a song, it can evoke a certain period in your life and transport you back there. So there's something magical about music, and it can be very uplifting and very encouraging. It could be informative. It could be like a connection. If you're sitting in your room listening to a record and there's some lyrics or somebody's talking about something, and you're like, yes, that's how I feel. Then you don't feel alone. You feel like there's someone out there who feels the way I do. I had this experience listening to like a lot of John Lennon stuff, like Mind Games and Starting Over and Woman, and the things that I was going through in my life. I'm like, you're talking right to me. I'm like, he's talking right to me. And it's a powerful thing. So there's a lot of different aspects to it. And on our record, our goal was just to be mostly positive and encouraging, because, in this time, well, in every time, let's say, people can always use more encouragement, more positive affirmation, because everything comes at the same time. All the good stuff, all the not so good stuff, it all comes together in a ball. It's not just one thing. So the choice is, which way are we going to look? Are we going to look at the good stuff and then we'll be positive, or we can look at the bad stuff and then things will be negative? It's all there for us. It's just which direction we want to look. So given the climate that we're currently existing in, we thought it would be extra special and a great time to just give somebody a positive message. There's songs like Divide and Conquer and Revolution, which are more topical and kind of pointing out the way things are. But even in those songs, it's trying to leave on a positive note.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. And hopefully people get that from the record. Some people don't care about the lyrics. They just, we just want to rock, and that's cool too. And some people are, need to get the lyrics and read it, and it's really important to them, and that's great. But giving the opportunity to do something, let's do something positive.
I must say thank you so much for taking that step, because yes, we could all use with a little bit more positivity in our lives.
Yeah, always, and people are like, oh my God, it's so bad. I'm like, really? I think this is the best time ever to be alive. It's the greatest time. Certainly it's not perfect, but if we zoom out and say life expectancy in general is higher, poverty is less than it's been. It's not gone. But I think in many respects, it's certainly the best time to ever be alive. There's so much opportunity, and we can communicate so easily. What we do with these tools, like people are like, oh, technology is bad. I'm like, technology is just technology. It's just how we use it. We have these things in our hands that hold all the information ever recorded in human history that let us communicate with people all over the globe, and we use it to look at cat pictures. Like, that's our fault. That's not the technology's fault, right?
Yeah, completely.
So it's always us. People go, politics is bad. I'm like, politics is just politics. It's the people that make it corrupt. Religion's bad. Religion is great. The idea about religion is to bring each other together, bring everybody together, right? But people use it for their own gain, and that's what makes it bad. They're all inherently fine. It's always the people. So if we could just change how we do things, everything will be fine. And it's a small change too, by the way. It's not a giant. Look, how many is there? 6 billion people on the planet, something like that. 6.5 billion people.
Yep.
Like, if we were generally good people, it would be a total mess. Like, think about if people just went out there and they were like, fuck it, like every day, it would be a complete shit show. Like, we're getting along pretty good, considering there's a bunch of 6 billion strangers on the planet. We're doing pretty good. So,
yeah, I think we're doing okay. That's just the pessimist in me.
yeah, I mean, we're doing okay. Is there room for improvement? Certainly. So let's do it. Always room for improvement. That's fine.
I needed to hear
things
that.
good?
I needed to hear that, Phil. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Are things good? Yeah. Could they be better? Yeah. How are we going to do it? We're just going to do it. How are we going to do it? We're going to smile, and we're going to we're going to put other people first. This is one of the lines in the song too.
Mm-hmm.
It says, if you do something for yourself, you're limited to one person. If you do things for others, there's no limit to what you could do. I mean, it's a tiny little thing. Put others first. If everybody on the planet put everybody else first, how big of a change would that be? It would be humongous overnight.
Yeah.
And it's possible.
Yep, it is. Yeah, when you truly think about it, it is.
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal. We can do it. It's right in front of us. These things are not that difficult. We just need to stop being distracted. People go, well, people are dumb. That's why. No, people aren't dumb. People just aren't paying attention. That's it. People are not dumb. They're just not paying attention to the important stuff. They're just distracted. And that's okay. We can fix that. Because if you're really unintelligent, it's hard to fix that. Mm-hmm. But even people who are so, look, we're quick to label people too. People have different kinds of intelligence. People might not be book smart, but they might be emotionally intelligent. They might be physically intelligent. All you got to do is look. Everybody has something beautiful to contribute. We just got to figure out what that is and encourage people to do what they're good at. And just do that. It's great. Everybody has something to give.
And that's such a great, positive and encouraging way to kind of end our chat. But I must add this as our final question, which is, what does metal mean to you? And has the meaning changed for you over the years?
For me, it was just like something that I found that I related to and expressed the way that I was feeling. Growing up, I listened to all kinds of music. My mom was a big Stevie Wonder fan and Earth, Wind and Fire. So I listened to a lot of that stuff, like Motown stuff, Temptations, Smokey Robinson. And then as I started getting a little older and getting into rock, then you get into like AC/DC, and then it was, getting into more like AC/DC and Rush, and then it was like Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, and that was like the big thing. Iron Maiden was like the big thing. And then I heard, and then I heard Metallica, and I was like, oh shit, I got rid of all my old records. Like Zeppelin gone, Hendrix gone. Like if it's not Metallica and Slayer, it sucks. And then I really got into that for a long time, But the reason was it just made such a strong connection, and really, like I said, expressed how I was feeling. I felt like this is my home. And I think there's people all over the world that feel exactly the same. And when you go to shows and you go to festivals and you see the camaraderie and how people relate, and it doesn't matter where they're from or what color they are or anything. And I think metal people, for the most part, are very accepting. And there's a song on the new record called Salvation. And the idea behind that song was salvation through music. Like I was saying, we're all here together. There's a line that says, congregation, you and me, like we're all together in this thing. And that's the thing, lead us to salvation through music, the thing that unites us no matter what. So that's what it's always meant to me.
Once again, I'm at a loss for words because what you just said
doesn't happen often.
What you just said about music and metal being something that stitches all of us together. That's exactly what it is. I mean, that's the entire reason what Peter and I do on Horns Up. That's exactly from where it stems from. It just talking about music brought us together.
Yeah, and it does.
That's the reason why we're talking to you today. It's
yeah. And think about all the people that we've met because of it, and all the wonderful experiences we've had because of it, and how much richer our lives are because of it. So, yeah, it can be like a little emotional, and it's not lost on me.
Yeah.
How fortunate, dude, I have the whole life that I have because of that, and it's been the greatest thing ever,
Wow. Once again, Phil, thank you so much for doing what you guys do. And I truly mean this when I say this. Horns up to Sacred Reich and horns up to you guys.
Yeah, man.
Thank you. Yeah, we're hoping to get some shows in India. We're working hard on it. I don't know if it's going to happen. I know eventually it will happen. I don't know exactly when, but it's a big focus of our band to come play there. So eventually, I'm sure we will.
Oh, certainly. If you're coming over, just let us know. We'll definitely like to host you.
For sure. Where are you located?
We're in Bombay.
Okay. Yeah, because I think they were talking about maybe Bangalore and Mumbai. So Mumbai's Bombay, right?
Yes.
Oh no.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Yeah. Mumbai's Bombay. So yeah, it would be great. And my wife's like, if you go to India, I'm definitely coming on that trip. I'm like, yeah. She goes, I'm definitely coming. So hopefully it'll work out. I think it would be incredible. I don't know what the metal scene is like, and I don't know how well Sacred Reich are known there, but we'll find out.
2 good times coming ahead. Thank you so much once again, Phil. Thanks for taking the time out and doing this with us.
Oh, thank you so much for your time and reaching out and wanting to do it. I appreciate it a great deal.
Wow, so that was a very positive and enriching
chat. I totally didn't expect that, especially the latter part of our conversation, where at some points I was thinking, am I speaking to like a motivational speaker of sorts more than a metal artist? So yeah, it was really interesting to see his point of view and just his very positive outlook on the current situation where everyone's kind of looking at it as bleak and negative, but just his whole positive outlook. And it was such a great conversation to have
at the time of the night that we had it, man.
Yeah, completely. It made me realize, or it reminded me of why we do this, or why we listen to heavy metal, or why, like, essentially we just enjoy anything that we like enjoying. It's all to do with just adding a little bit of positivity to our lives. And yes, all of us could do with a lot more positivity. So on that very positive note, that's it for episode 30. Peter, where can people find you?
I'm at Trend Crusher.
I'm at Asmo Annie. You can write into us at HonzaPod if you ever feel like it. Well, send us some positive love, man. Come on. Do that thing. Till next time, horns up.
Horns up.